For History 131, we did our final project on the Columbian Exchange. I'm Brian Horn.
Logan Panic. Isaac Johnson. Robert Fulton.
And we did ours on the Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange was the mass exchange of ideas and culture through the means of transportation between both Europe and Africa and Asia to the New World of the Americas. The Columbian Exchange started in 1492 after the exploration by Columbus. Well after Columbus's exploration, it caused many things to be exchanged between both the New and Old World. This was a mass exchange of both ideas, such as culture, plants, animals, and communicable diseases. As you can see, it took a long and perilous journey to actually reach their destination. It roughly took them about half a year if they went with the tides and not during hurricane season. As they arrived to the New World, whoa, what happened?
Keep going, it's going.
Oh. As they came to the New World, it allowed many things to occur, such as the New World had many animals that were foreign to the Old World. These foreign animals included llamas, alpacas, turkeys, and many of the different animals that was not present in the Old World, while the Old World brought such animals as sheep, dogs, cattle, and pigs, such as the commonly things that allowed Americas to expand. In turn, this wasn't the best thing because it also brought along massive plant life that was hazardous to both worlds.
Okay, many plants and crops were brought from the Old World to the New World, including honeybees, sugarcane, bananas, grapes, citrus fruits, and some of the more important ones being rice and grains and coffee beans. These plants were very detrimental to the ecosystem of the New World and helped bring great food and new plants to the New World. Coffee! So these plants are great to the New World. The natives living there benefited greatly from these plants. When talking about crops coming from the New World to the Old World, you have squash, pumpkins, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, peppers, tobacco, pineapple, cocoa, beans, and vanilla. These Europe civilizations really relied heavily on these new plants. For example, the Irish relied extremely heavily on the potatoes from the New World, so much so that when the Irish famine hit, it wiped out a lot of their population. They had to relocate. In the Columbian Exchange, there was a lot of diseases transported throughout this exchange. The diseases from the Old World included smallpox, measles, malaria, yellow fever, influenza, and chickenpox. Throughout this transportation of diseases, there was a widespread cause of death, and this cause of death resulted in a lot of different culture changes. From the New World to the Old World, there were 4 diseases transported, including syphilis, polio, hepatitis, and encephalitis. It's even rumored from these diseases that the Queen of England actually caught syphilis. Shazam!
To elaborate a little more on the topic and sum everything up, the Columbian Exchange was the trade of goods such as plants, livestock, technology, disease, and cultural influences between the Old World, which consisted of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the New World, which involved Northern and Southern America. It occurred between the 15th and 16th century and would not have occurred had Christopher Columbus not discovered the Americas in 1492.
Yeah, the Columbian Exchange.
The many different foods and plants that voyagers brought from the Old World to the New played a big role in the success of the settlement of the continent and producing more for trade. Some of those were fruits and vegetables like apples, bananas, cabbage, citrus fruits, lettuce, olives, peaches, pears, turnips, and watermelons. They also brought grains like rice, wheat, barley, coffee, and sugar as well. With the Europeans came new technology that helped expand agriculture in the Americas, like the plow, which was able to cultivate the land to be prosperous in producing mass quantities of crops. Probably the most important thing that the Old World brought over in the aid of those and all other plants was the honeybee. Not only did the honey it produces act as a natural sweetener, but the honeybee helps in pollinating plants throughout the Americas. When the foods and plants came from the New World to the Old, Europeans were intrigued by these odd plants and exotic tasting fruits that they considered them delicacies. Vegetables and fruits like avocados, cassava roots, chili peppers, guava, pimentos, pineapples, potatoes, pumpkins, squash, sweet potatoes, and tomatoes were among the many brought to the Old World. They also produced nuts and beans like peanuts, cocoa, cashews, corn, pecans, and vanilla. The island of Ireland went through the Great Irish Potato Famine between the years of 1845 and 1852, where most of the population either emigrated or died from disease and starvation. The potato was the cheap crop that kept the majority of Ireland from starving. Tomatoes were also brought from Italy, and because of its introduction, they were able to come up with the magical concoction of marinara sauce that the world enjoys today. But one of the best plants produced in the Americas as a cash crop was tobacco because they convinced the rest of the world that they needed it. Little did the rest of the world know that they were actually getting addicted to it and really did need it. The Old World brought over many different diseases that wiped out a great amount of the native population because they had never been exposed to these diseases and had no immunity towards them. This helped in the settlement of the Americas by the Europeans with little resistance. Some of those diseases were the bubonic plague, malaria, measles, diphtheria, mumps, smallpox, yellow fever, typhus, and influenza. The Aztec and Inca Native Americans had massive cities that the Europeans conquered with ease with the help of influenza, smallpox, and a variety of other different diseases. Since the Native Americans were an isolated population until the Europeans made contact with them, they didn't come into contact with many different diseases themselves. So the amount of diseases they brought to the Old World were few compared to what the Europeans brought to them. Polio, hepatitis, encephalitis, and syphilis were all New World diseases. Tens of thousands of people in Europe died from syphilis, and it has even been rumored that Queen Elizabeth I caught it herself. The technology that was brought over from the Old World changed the lives of the Native Americans forever. With them, the Europeans brought guns, farming machinery, architecture, and a written alphabet. The weapons that Native Americans had at the time were hatchets, the bow and arrow, and knives. The introduction of guns and steel knives made hunting for Native Americans much easier and allowed them to hunt larger animals. Since Native Americans were hunter-gatherers, weapons ended up being the main trade between them and Europeans. Native Americans were able to stop being hunter-gatherers so much when they were given the plow because now they were able to settle on a piece of land and cultivate it to grow enough food to feed entire tribes. Horses also allowed them to hunt animals much faster, and it was horses and oxen that pulled the plow to till the land. When the Europeans came to the New World, they had no way to communicate with the native population because they had a language that was foreign to them and no written language either. Europeans then started teaching Native Americans how to read and write so they could communicate trade and treaties with them. They also felt that the Native Americans were inferior because they were not Christians, and that they were educating and saving them from damnation.